as you can see, I'm kind of chilling in my truck right now. I actually just got off work. So I've kind of been a ghost, and I've kind of not touched the car. So I kind of put up a video today, you know, showing that the alternator works. As you could tell, it was terribly edited, and that's because all I did was take the GoPro clips and put them on my phone and put them together and put it in a video. I didn't have time to make any sort of a video this week, and I wanted to at least post something. So where the car stands. The last thing I did in the video was, you know, get the car running, and I showed that the alternator was working and charging the battery. I think at idle it was getting like 14.4, 14.5 volts, which is amazing. It's really high voltage. Which, I mean, there's no negative effect on that as long as it stays that way and the alternator doesn't short out or, you know, fail sooner because it's under a heavier load. So at the end of that video, which you guys won't be able to see in the video, is it actually lifted the radiator cap again, and it was pouring water everywhere. So I had a 16 pound cap on the radiator cap in the back of the car, and I thought that'd be enough. When I bought the bung for the radiator cap, when I made the jug, the can in the back, I figured that's all I needed, so that was fine. Well, now getting the car running, I had a data log on the Fuel Tech. I had like a 5-minute long data log. Just let it record, and if anything happened, I could see it. And anyway, for me, it's for me to learn. So I see the temperature rising, and then I also see the coolant pressure rise. Well, the coolant pressure was going up, and it got to about 14. It stayed at 14 for a little while, and then all of a sudden my engine temp shot up, and that's what I see in the data log. Well, I know it lifted the cap, so I'm assuming the reason why it overheated was, I wouldn't say it really overheated, it got to about 210 degrees, which for an LS, that's basically normal operating temperature. So I shut the car off, and you know, I really haven't touched it. So I asked a couple friends that have LS engines, electric water pumps, and so on. So what do you guys run for a radiator cap? And most of them tell me anywhere between 24 pound to 30 pound. So one thing I've learned is electric water pumps, they create more pressure in the system, which obviously would require you to have a higher pressure cap. So I went to American Motorsports, a local shop. I picked up a 28 pound, posted that on Instagram, and I had a couple friends just lay into me saying, oh, you're putting a band-aid on something, you know, it's not bled properly, you really need to figure out the issue. Well, I'm not going to agree or disagree with that statement. I would definitely say there could still be air in the system, because for me to bleed it, you know, you got to get it up to operating temperature. I cracked the steam port in the front of the engine to bleed it, and I got a lot of air out that way, and you know, I'd add fluid and whatnot. So I was in the process of still bleeding it, and I haven't really been able to run the car much because the battery would, you know, discharge and die. So this was the first time I really got it to run with the alternator, so a higher voltage. I mean, essentially, if I can get the cooling system bled, it's happy, I can idle the car for an infinite amount of time. Well, so I haven't really touched the car since that day. Like, I haven't even fired it up since then, and that would have been Tuesday. I did get the cap and whatnot. The other thing that my buddy Brian gave me the advice about is, you know, I have a 0 to 150 PSI pressure sensor on my cooling system sensor. Well, realistically, the cooling system should never exceed 30 pounds. You know, if it exceeds any higher than 30, then the head gasket has gone bye-bye. So the thing about having a if you have a 150 PSI sensor and you're only planning on running, you know, this much of its portion, your resolution is going to be pretty low. It's not going to be as accurate as, let's say, if I had a 30 pound pressure sensor, because you're using the whole range instead of just a little bit. So not a bad idea. I ordered a 50 pound sensor, which is the second lowest I can find. The lowest I found was 25, but I feel like that'd be too low. So I ordered a 50. That should be coming in this Wednesday, and I will put that in. So once I do that, I should have a better resolution of that. It will also gain me having a spare 150 PSI sensor, which is good to have spares of everything. So I'm gonna put that sensor in. I'm gonna try to rebleed the cooling system and start there. So I did also grab a couple more things from American Motorsports. I bought some painless wire loom. It's like split wire loom, but it's nice and braided, so it will clean up the wiring I have in the fender wells in the front, along with the little P-clamps. They look like that. So that way you put the wire through the middle and you bolt it to the chassis. That way everything's nice and tied up. That's pretty much it for now. I do still have the passenger front suspension off the car because I had it off from when I put the subframe up, and I noticed that the upper ball joints were pretty bad. The thing about the Miata control arms is the ball joints are not serviceable on the upper front arms. So I did end up purchasing a set of V8 Roadsters upper control arms. I'm hoping they'll be in by next weekend. Excuse me. So that's about it. You know, this past week, like, I literally haven't touched the car. I mean, we've been slammed at work. I've actually gone in for all my days off to work extra overtime, just to get a handle on things in the shop. So I just haven't had the time to really work on the car. And I don't want to leave you guys in the dark either. I know a lot of you guys are really interested in seeing the build, you know, come together finally and be finished. But just want to share a little update. When I get home, I will show you what I'm talking about with the wiring harness. And yeah, so I'll even post a data log on the on this video. It's kind of cool. Like, I genuinely enjoy looking at a data log now. Before, I used to have a Megasquirt years ago. I had an AEM years ago, and the only things you'll see on a data log is what you're monitoring. And now with the Fuel Tech, I monitor everything, so I have more information that I'm able to read through the data log, and it's really nice. It's satisfying, I guess, for lack of a better term, because I'm able to understand everything going on at, you know, 200 times a second. It's updating me, so it's a very good resolution, very cool data logger. So it's learning, it's teaching me a lot, especially getting more hands-on with the performance industry. I've been a mechanic for many years. I've helped out with my friends' race cars for many years, but having my own now, I wouldn't say like it hasn't been a race car before, but it's turning into more of a race car now. It's a cool feeling. You know, it's a lot of hard work's been put in this car, and, you know, having my own system that I'm just even more excited about now, it's a cool feeling. So I appreciate you guys for joining me on this journey. It's definitely been a crazy one. I'm so glad that, I wouldn't say I'm glad about the coronavirus, but I'm glad that Import Alliance kind of got pushed off, because there's no way in heck I would have been able to make it to Import Alliance with all these stupid little bugs and issues I've been having. So hopefully I'll be ready for the next one. So anyway, I'll check you guys in the garage. What's going on, guys? It is actually it's one day later. So I got this sensor, the 0 to 50 PSI sensor in for the cooling system. So as you can see up in the back of this mess, you have, behind those two plugs, there's a block of the sensors. So I just removed the coolant pressure sensor, but I'm running into one big issue. And if I can grab the two sensors that are right here, I'll bring you over to my little toolbox and I'll show you. So this is what I just removed out of the car. This is from Motion Raceworks. It's a 0 to 150 PSI, and I get to focus, but 0 to 150 PSI. It is just your universal no-name sensor. And the idea that Brian gave me was if I switch to a 50 PSI sensor, I'll have better resolution, and now I'll actually have a spare for the rest of my stuff. So as you can see here, it says right there, range is 0 to 50. It is a 0 to 5 volt sensor from Low Dollar Motorsports. But there's one slight problem. As you can see, the sensor is significantly larger than this one. When this one was threaded into the sensor block, it was right up against one of the mounting bolts for it, which it was very tight to spin out. This unfortunately is not going to fit. So I have a couple fittings laying around, and since it is 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't have access to go to the store. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking this male to male 1/8 NPT union, and then I'm going to take this 1/8 female to female union. I'm going to screw that into this, and then this will screw into this. So 1, 2, 3, go. All right. So what I have here is a sensor to a female to female to a male to male. Essentially, that gives me just a little bit of an extension, and hopefully this works exactly how I'm planning. All right, well, thankfully we have success. I got the inside. Go ahead and turn the light on. You can see right there is the sensor with the extension piece that I put together. Now, like, I'm wiggling the whole thing and it doesn't feel like there's that much. I mean, it doesn't wiggle at all. So hopefully the sensor is not too heavy where that breaks the fitting, because that would kind of suck. So that was a big pain in the ass. Because at first I had to actually rotate the bolt that holds on that sensor block, which means I had to loosen up the hose that goes to the cylinder head, and that was exciting. But so that's step one of attempting to bleed this thing for good, because that's been kind of the issue, is I haven't really had a handle on bleeding it yet. And I know some people have told me it's going to be a pain because the way the radiator is set up, but I kind of understood that. There is one thing I was recommended to buy, which I have right in front of me. And I got this from Summit. I know there's other places that sell them too, but this is called an AirVac coolant refiller. So supposedly, this crazy contraption, I guess there's different size plugs to go in the cap area, but apparently this is going to go onto the radiator cap. I'm going to hook this up to the air compressor, and this is supposed to suck out all of the air out of the system, and then I'll be able to put coolant in it. So I have never used one of these, but this is the way I was told will be like the best and end all be all for the cooling bleeding. So I pray to God that they're right. Now, I mentioned in the last part of the last clip, I did get some of the, like I said, the painless braided loom, and then I got a couple packages of P-clamps. So I just did this fender well. All I did was one clamp for now, but there's one clamp here. You can see it's nicely braided, and then I'll end up probably drilling here or here, putting another clamp so this is nice and tucked up. It doesn't have any interference with the control arm. And then, it's nice and grommeted through there, so we should be good to go for this. This is how I've been running my wiring for years on both sides. So I mean, I know there's no issues as far as rubbing is concerned. So that's that. According to FedEx, my control arms are actually going to be delivered tomorrow, which is insane because they shipped out today. So 1 day shipping from, it's 2 hours away from me, so I guess it's not that bad when it comes to logistics, but I'm excited. I've had these factory control arms forever. The only aftermarket control arm on this entire car is the rear uppers, and these are Xeric Fab. But the only reason I did that initially is because I had the big fat sticky tires in the back. Well, they don't do any good when you're 2.5 degrees cambered in. So when I get the alignment done on this, I'm actually positive a quarter degree. That way when the car squats a little bit, it kind of straightens itself back out. So that's always worked really well for me. So anywho, small update. I need to get back in the swing of the video thing. So hopefully this weekend I can get the cooling system bled, tie up all the odds and ends. If I can get the brake lines done this week and the cooling system bled, I would love to take it down the block, like super sketchy and still all taken apart. But I don't know. I've been really busy with work and other things this past couple weeks. So I'm hoping to make time for her. I miss my baby. There's nothing I can do with you besides appreciate you in my garage right now, unfortunately, because all this stupid coronavirus stuff, I can't take it to any events. But hey, me and her will just keep living on. New pressure caps on, even though I gotta drain the whole system again to bleed it. But anyway, so that's it for me right now. Just a sweet little quick upload. I apologize about the last video. Just wasn't able to grab a camera. So while I was at work one night, I took the clips off the GoPro, kind of smushed them together, and yeah, I know that wasn't exactly the best move on a video, but I just wanted to get something out. So little turtles come together, little by little, piece by piece.